Hey everybody, welcome to I'm an Actor, Not a Therapist. I'm Sammy. So, what's going on? I wanted to talk about some stuff today. So there's this interesting thought process that I have occasionally when my anxiety spikes and my depression dips and I'm not in the best of mental headspaces, and that is that I'm not an interesting person, that the friends that I have don't find me interesting, that I have nothing to talk about, I have nothing to contribute to the conversation. I get up, I go to work, I come home, I do what I need to do, and then I go to bed. That's when I'm at a low, that's where my brain goes. And I know there are a lot of people out there that feel the same way. That you don't feel like you're an interesting person, either to the people around you or just in general. And, my brain always says to me, you're not an interesting person. You have nothing really to say. Nobody can really learn anything from you, is what my brain, the liar, says to me while I'm in the high anxiety, low depression phases of life. But here's what I've learned. And again, we love this phrase here at I'm an Actor, Not a Therapist. Here's what I've learned. I've learned that sometimes my brain, for lack of a better term, is a little weenie, and my brain needs to shush and sit and have a cookie and leave me alone. Because here's what I've learned. Your brain's main focus in life is to protect you. That's what its main focus is. It's your please don't die switch is your brain. Please don't do that thing you want to do because it may make you cease to exist. That's what your brain is really there for. Your brain is there to stop you from making that stupid decision, hopefully. It doesn't always do its job. You still will make a silly decision every now and then. But when it comes to the anxiety spike and the depression dip that I know myself and a lot of my friends experience day in and day out, and you ride the wave and you hope you come out on the other side relatively unscathed, your brain starts telling you things and you start believing them. Like, you're not an interesting person. The things that you do aren't interesting. The things that you like are weird and strange and lame, and nobody's going to give a damn about what you have to say. And it's not true. And it's not right. And it's just flat out wrong. Because everybody is interesting in some form or another. Everything that people say, other people can learn from in some form or another. So here's the example that I kind of used with a friend the other day, because we got on this topic when I was discussing with them whether or not I should actually bring this podcast back. I had a long discussion with a friend about, what do you think? Like, my old podcast crashed and burned. Like, I don't know. And they kind of asked me point blank. They said, why do you think you're not interesting? And I said, I don't know. I get up, I go to work, I get done, I go to bed. And they're like, okay, but why don't you think you're interesting? And I thought about it. I had to think about it for a minute because nobody had ever challenged me on that before. I had never even challenged my brain like that before. And one of the things that I'm learning in therapy is to challenge my brain when it starts to spiral, when it starts to, go into these dark recesses of your mind. It stopped me in my tracks. And I said to the person I was talking to, I said to my friend, you know what? You're right. I said, because even if what I do is get up, go to work, come home, do the dishes, watch TV, and go to bed, I might do the dishes a different way than you. I might watch something different than you do. And the thing that I watch being different than what you watch could be interesting to you. So I'm going to tell you about it. Or the thing that you watch that I don't could be interesting to me. Tell me about it. And there's this element when you start going through these spirals, and believe me, I know you just want the spiral to end, and you don't want to challenge the spiral, because in a way the spiral is sometimes all you know, and you don't know how to challenge the spiral. I'm sorry, I had to stop for a second. I'm not going to turn the recording off because I think this is funny, but as I'm recording this podcast, I'm also live right now on TikTok, and there's somebody in the chat just making me laugh. Sorry, you guys. I promise I'm going right back on track, but I got a little distracted for a minute. And that's interesting. It's interesting that I'm sitting here while I'm recording this podcast, and I'm sitting here looking at my comments on my TikTok live as I'm sitting here recording this, and I'm not going to edit this out, because I think it's funny, and I think that it's going to be funny for you to hear, because let's face it, we all get distracted. We all get distracted by stuff. But anyway, sometimes we're comfortable in the spirals. Sometimes that's all we know. So why would we challenge something that, while it hurts us, is what we know, right? Right? So here's kind of what I've learned. You have to challenge the way you think. You have to. You can't just take everything that you think at face value sometimes. Now, I'm not saying like, hey, the sky is blue. Your brain's not going to jump up and go, no, it's not, it's green. No, it's not going to do that. Your brain is right this time. The sky is blue. The grass is green, sky is blue. Everyday facts of life are everyday facts of life. I'm not asking you to like get philosophical about like the eggs you make in the morning or anything like that. But what I am saying is challenge those thoughts. You say to yourself, I'm not interesting. This is all I do day in and day out. But challenge the thought process. While we all have shared experiences in life, we don't all experience the same things. So my experience in life is completely different from somebody else's, and that other person is different from one other person. And we can all learn something from each other, and that's interesting, and it's interesting to me. Ha 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 ha. I see what I did there. I think it's very interesting that I have been, with the help of my friends, with the help of my therapist, have been slowly challenging the way I think of things. And I invite you who is listening to this right now to do the same thing. Start with little things. Little things like, if you have anxiety and you're getting anxious about something, my therapist's favorite question is, okay, but what's the worst thing that could happen? Because I guarantee you the worst thing you think is going to happen is not actually going to happen. And now you've built yourself up for nothing. But I get it. That's what anxiety tells you to do. And, for those of us that have it, we sometimes can't help jumping immediately to the worst case scenario. Even if the worst case scenario, in a situation is, well, I want to ask my friend for something, and your worst case scenario is they're going to tell you no, they're going to hate you, how dare you approach them for something. That's my worst case scenario. Whenever I have to ask somebody for stuff, that's my worst case scenario. Is not only is the person going to tell me no automatically, but they're going to like want to disown me. And I can't tell you the why behind that. I can't tell you why that's where my brain goes, but that's where it goes. So learning to challenge that, if I ask my friend for a favor, they're automatically going to say no and disown me. Well, okay, but what if they say yes and it's wonderful? Or, okay, they said no, or they said not right now. Okay, doesn't mean that they never want to talk to you again. It doesn't mean that they don't want you in their life because you asked them for something. It's very important to challenge those kind of thoughts, because if you don't challenge those kind of thoughts, you can't really grow. And as humans, we want to grow and we want to change. It's something that's built into us. We want this to happen. We want to make genuine connections with people, and sometimes you have to challenge how you think in order to be able to do that. The other thing that I always struggle with is, going back to, oh, I'm not interesting. The other thing that I go back to a lot is stuff like, oh, I don't want to bore this person with what I have to say. What I have to say isn't important enough. Well, here's the thing with that, right? Like, if you have supportive friends around you and you have people around you that love you, they're going to want to hear what you have to say. They're going to hear, they're going to want to hear, I would say, 95% of what you have to say, unless you're sitting there just babbling on and on and on sometimes, which sometimes I do, and then my friends have a good laugh, and then I have a good laugh because I realize what I'm doing. But if you have a great group of friends around you and a very supportive group of friends around you, 95% of the time they're going to want to know what you have to say, even if you've said it before. Because clearly, if you are trying to convey that information to them, it's important to you that they know it. It's important to you, it's important to them that they understand you. If you're trying to communicate with somebody, and listen, I get it. Communication, that sucks sometimes. And that's hard. And that's challenging, especially if you grew up being bullied, especially if you grew up, being told that you weren't interesting, or you get excited about something and nobody around you is excited about it. So you stop talking about it. You stop talking about something that might be important to you because you were told through somebody's actions that you might not be important enough to them to understand you or to listen to what it is that you have to say. So what I now say, and I'm inviting you to do it too, and I get it, it's hard, and it's not going to happen overnight, and it's going to suck. I'm not even going to try to lie to you. It's going to hurt, it's going to suck, it's going to make you feel absolutely uncomfortable. But you have to challenge the way you think, because everything that you have to say to somebody you care about is important, and what you say to people matters. And you, even if you don't think that you're interesting enough to have that conversation with your friend, you know what? Why would you make that decision for somebody else and not give them the opportunity to get to know part of you? You know what I mean? Think about it for a second. Just think about it for a second. Perfect example. I was telling my TikTok audience that I went to go see Rent today at Paper Mill Playhouse. And I've seen the show 7 times. Today was number 8. And you know, the show has always touched me. I promise I have a point. Take the ride with me for a second. I promise I have a point. And I completely was enamored by the gentleman that was playing Roger today, because there were aspects of the show that, even though I've seen it 7, now 8 times, there were aspects of his character that he found that I had never seen before, had never considered before, and it brought a new level to the show for me. So I found him on Instagram, and I messaged him, and I thanked him for a great show, and I introduced myself, and I told him how important the show was to me, and, I made it very clear that I knew his character well, that, I've seen it this many times. I've done a deep character dive into the character he played, and he still found things that I would never have found. I typed the message up, and I sent it to him. Now, the gentleman has almost 6,000 followers on Instagram alone. Has another couple thousand on TikTok. While I was sitting here talking to you all and recording this episode, he messaged me back. Now, I haven't read the message yet, but he seems super excited that I took the time to let him know all of the things that I let him know in that message. He doesn't know me from anybody, but because I stepped out of my comfort zone and I challenged my brain from thinking, what you have to say to this stranger that you just watched perform for 2 hours isn't important. I challenged that thought. I messaged the gentleman, and he's actually messaged me back. Sometimes it pays to step out of your comfort zone. Just gonna put it out there. Sometimes it's worth it, because here's something else that I've learned, okay? I know that I'm on such a tangent from, I know that I'm on such a tangent from being interesting. I promise at some point I'll get back there. Or not. We might end sooner rather than later. We'll have to see. I'm just going to keep talking though. It's important to get yourself to a place where, even if it's uncomfortable, even if it makes you feel icky, even if it makes you shake, sometimes it's worth sending that message. Sometimes it's worth asking the question, because not every answer is no. Not every answer is no, especially if you have decided that the answer is no before you even ask the damn question. Ask the question and let the other person make up their mind. I promise, what you have to say to people is interesting. And if people are connecting to you and people call themselves your friend, they will want to know what you have to say. They will find it interesting. If you are genuinely reaching out to somebody with an open heart and with nothing but the want for friendship, 9 times out of 10, it'll be worth it. I promise. But you have to tell your brain, the little weenie that it can sometimes be, to be quiet and sit down. I have such a way with words, don't I? As these episodes go on, they may or may not get more elegant. I don't know. But right now, this is who I am right now. This is how I wanted to convey this today by calling my brain a little weenie. Like, help the helpless, I swear. Anyway, I hope you guys have enjoyed the episode. I hope you guys, enjoyed the giggles that I hopefully gave you. And who knows, maybe we'll have more to talk about soon, and it'll be interesting, I promise. If you guys enjoyed the episode, go ahead and subscribe. You guys can find us now on Spotify, Audible, Amazon Music, and Google Podcasts. So go ahead and subscribe, and I will see you all next time on I'm an Actor, Not a Therapist. Have a fabulous, fabulous day, guys.